All
just
right.
to start, what's your full name?
My full name is Marie Delahoussaye-Diaz.
Now, if we can, let's go a little way back. Let's go way back for a little while.
The Wayback Machine.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Breaux Bridge, born and raised in Breaux Bridge, and went to the university here, which was then called USL. Graduated, worked here in town, worked for an advertising agency, worked in retail. I was a bartender for years, and then I went to law school at Tulane, and graduated from Tulane and practiced law for a while. Had a family, had more family, and here I am.
So what was your favorite job out of those?
Bartending.
Bartending? Why is that?
Well, I worked at the old Red Dog, and that was way before your time. But we had a lunch crowd. I worked days, straight days, and we had a lunch crowd that was fabulous, and everybody knew each other. Eavesdrop Theater had just come into its own, and so there was a theater program every week, and it was great. But it was for my departmental major, it was the place to be. So I saw everybody that I knew and got paid to do it.
Got paid to do it.
It was perfect.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what was your go-to drink that you would tell everyone?
Oh, we were simple. We were people had rum and Coke or, straight up vodka, really simple stuff. This was before people were into martinis and, mojitos and stuff you had to use a blender for.
So are you still a tried and true simple beverage drinker?
Yeah, I go straight for wine now. It comes straight from the bottle into your glass, much easier.
Awesome. Can you tell us how you first got involved with AOC, changing gears a little bit?
I was thinking about that. I think I saw an ad for Muse somewhere, maybe on Facebook. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And so we showed up. We registered for one class and showed up and knew a couple of the kids who were in the class already. And I think we've been here every week since then. Sometimes twice a week.
So back then, what was your first impression of AOC?
Well, I had watched AOC before. I had watched AOC when we had Cox. And so I had some idea, I guess, maybe, not a great idea what went on here. I loved the kids' classes. I thought they were absolutely incredible. My daughter just is a huge fan of almost every class. We loved it. Everybody was super friendly, everybody was super nice, and it seemed like it worked for us that the more we got involved, the more stuff we found out to be involved in. And that was also really nice. We were looking for something to get involved in, to spend our time with.
Together?
Sometimes together and sometimes alone, because now she's involved in Your Radical Reporters, and so they're kind of a standalone group, even from the moms.
And what surprised you most about working, let's say with AOC, but being involved with AOC?
The depth of the equipment and knowledge. Like how much equipment was made available to us that we could leave with, that we could use here, how many people were willing to explain to us how to use stuff, what programs to use, what we needed at home to make things work. So it would kind of be a toss-up. I mean, I always go for people over stuff, but kind of the stuff too. I mean, we checked out the backpack, and that was just amazing. We loved it. We loved it.
Why did you love that one in particular?
Because it's so easy. It's as much of a non-Mac person as I am. It was very intuitive for us, Sometimes the attachable stuff got to us, but that's okay. We learned how to do that.
Definitely. So what is your personal dream project to work on here using AOC's, say, equipment and resources?
I'm scripting something right now. I'm scripting what I hope would be a web series.
Okay.
That's what I'm working on. No, because it morphs. I've talked to some of my friends who are actual writers, And they say, you know, you have to go with it. The characters create themselves, and they tell you what. And I think that's kind of crazy, but it's changed from. I've written about 6 drafts of the first 4 scenes, and they've changed completely. So I need a little more stability in the project. It's all kind of the same project,
Okay.
but the focus is shifting and morphing. So I need a little more time to set it up.
Well, you mentioned characters. Who are some of your favorite characters?
In this,
in anything you've read or watched?
wow. Um, Juliette Binoche's character in Chocolat. I can't remember her name. I don't remember, but she was a wonderful. She was an amazing character.
Why does she stand out for you?
Because she's a really strong character, a really strong female character, but she also, you can see her going through all of the internal struggles that a mother would have, that a woman alone would have. It's a beautiful movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, and she just kind of stands out for me in that.
Okay.
Who else do I like? Well, Princess Leia was always a favorite, because I saw the movie when I was much younger, when it first came out, and she was kind of that first female hero who was willing to do her own fighting and not be rescued by Mario or whoever, waiting for the prince in another castle.
So whenever those movies were released, where were you in your life? How did that match up with your life?
Ooh, let's see.
For that to stand out so much?
I don't know. I guess that whole Star Wars came out. I was always a science fiction, comic book, fantasy reader, kind of geeky, Dungeons and Dragons-ish. So it just fit into everything that had been me all of my life. Chocolat, I don't remember when I first saw it. It was after it was released, because I saw it on video the first time. But I know I had kids, and watching another woman deal kind of in the same way with how do you handle your child not fitting in, how do you handle your child having to deal with that, what advice do you give them? I thought that kind of spoke to me.
Okay.
Because I had kids by that time.
Okay. So along the same lines, who would you consider to be some of your mentors, or in person and
Real life?
Yeah.
Pat Rickles, who was the head of the honors program when I was at USL. Well, actually, I guess it was Dr. White was maybe really the head, but Dr. Rickles. She was, back in the day, involved in civil rights, involved in disability rights. Her husband was post-polio, and so he was always in a wheelchair or in crutches. So she had a huge impact on my life. And oddly enough, when my 2 oldest kids started UL, she was still there. And so they both had classes with her. And I know that she had a similar effect on my oldest daughter, because when she got married, we had a tiny picture of Dr. Rickles in a locket that she carried in her bouquet. Dr. Rickles and my mother.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was really special for me and for her, I think. Who else? What other real life women? It's hard to think of that on the spur of the moment, because I want to be. Right now I look at young female artists, or older female artists, people who are like single-mindedly pursuing what they want to do, not to the exclusion of their families or their friends, but who are like really putting an emphasis on letting out what they have to say, which is a great reason for being here at AOC, because you have the opportunity to do that, to use these lights and this equipment and the expertise that's gathered in this area, and say, how do I do this? How do we make this happen? So, but people who make a difference, who really make a difference in other people's lives, that's kind of who I follow.
And what a great thing to teach your own children.
Yeah. Yeah.
To show them maybe this is who you should be watching. Can guide your life.
Yeah, and we have those discussions, you know, like even about like really simple stuff. We'll watch TV and it's like, you know, this is all directed by women, or this was written by a woman, and it's hard to break into. This is not an easy field to break into, but it's possible because look, and I think it makes a huge difference to, you know, to how young women look at themselves, and that's been really important.
What are some of your strengths that you look forward to showing off to your children, if you will? To say, look, I might be weak sometimes, but these are my strengths.
What I'm good at. What I've been good at in working, for 5 years I was involved with a theater company here in town, and we ran a venue on the other side of Jefferson Street from here. And putting people together, like staffing projects, that's probably my real superpower.
Okay. Connector.
Yeah, yeah. And that's fun. It's fun to say, ooh, you're a really good director, but you know who would help is this choreographer, or this musician, or this costumer, or this set designer. And that was fun because it also involved knowing who everybody was. And that's really important, I think, is to have that, what's the word I'm looking for? Catholic knowledge, like universal knowledge of what you're working in. So who do you go to when you need an X? So that's probably my biggest strength. I think my other strength would be my curiosity. There's rarely a thing that goes on that I don't wonder about. And the first thing I think I learned on the internet was how to use Google. and I'm always bewildered by people who are like, how did you find this? You just type it in and Google knows everything. But I like information, I like knowing, you know, and I'll watch things that are abhorrent to me because I feel like the knowledge is so important because you have to know. You just have to. You have to know as much as you can about everything that you can.
Absolutely. That's a great line. That's great. So kind of along that lines, what are you looking forward to the most in 2017 if you're always seeking?
Finishing that first script. getting that first 25 minutes on paper. That's something I'm looking forward to. Learning more about stop motion animation because that's something we absolutely love. Seeing more movies. We love movies. We love theater. Seeing more plays. Learning a little bit more about what everybody does in all those things. But I think right now my eye is on that script prize. I gotta get it written. You know, I keep posting myself little inspirational things on my social media. Yeah. That will, you know, it's easy to write. All you have to do is sit at a typewriter and bleed. That kind of thing. That's what I do with my time. Well, I'm not writing.
Exactly. So what are you reading then to inspire you to write? What are you reading now?
I just read a brand new zombie book. I like zombies, vampires, paranormal. It goes with my fantasy, science fiction, weird. Called The Girl with All the Gifts. It's by Mike Carey, who's a comic book writer. And it's been made into a movie that should be released sometime this year, so I'm eagerly anticipating that. I just started Trevor Noah's autobiography, I guess, Born a Crime, about his growing up in South Africa, which is really interesting. I'm about halfway through Bernie Sanders' Our Revolution. What else? I don't remember. There's something else, and I can see the book, but it's not open. So maybe I haven't actually started it yet. I can't picture the cover in my head.
So you read multiple books at one time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm reading Ms. Marvel again because that's the community read. And she's been my favorite comic book character for several years now. She's she's the new Spider-Man, is what I tell people, because she's the real teenager who has superpowers that she's not thrilled about all the time, and she doesn't know how to deal with them, and her family is an immigrant family from Pakistan, and she's in this essentially foreign culture, even though I think the character was born in the United States, but her family's not, and they're definitely not from here. And all of that otherness and outsideness is reflected really well by the writers. And so it's, that's something that I love, but I've already read it. I'm just reading it again.
So I know the Lafayette Public Library is also going around asking everyone what's their superpower, and you mentioned it earlier about
I did.
being a connector.
That's what I put on their board.
What was the word
Ooh.
that you used?
Bringing people together, I think, is what I said, because that's really it's important in a lot of ways, and I was thinking about doing it in terms of specific jobs to be done, but it's important I mean, just bringing people, introducing people to one another is something I love to do. You need to see, you need to meet this guy, or you need to meet this person. This person needs to come in and do a show for you. That's what I like to do.
Definitely. Sort of along the same lines, but kind of a fun way to ask it. But what is your spirit animal and why?
Ooh, I've always said Tilda Swinton was my spirit animal. She's not really an animal, but I love her. On all those tests, my Patronus is a wolf.
Nice.
So I think that would be my spirit animal.
Why
If it couldn't be Tilda Swinton. Why a wolf? Because they're pack animals, but also kind of loners. I mean, when I think about wolves in my head, I always see them kind of alone. But I know that they hunt and they travel in packs, and they're very much pack oriented. And they seem very strong, but very individual and very independent. So that's, wolves.
Great answer. Completely different side note. Quick, you have $1,000 to spend.
Ooh, yay.
What are you doing?
How long do I have to spend it?
An hour.
Oh, no. Okay. I head over to Barnes & Noble, and I buy books and movies. I'm conflicted about music always, because we have a turntable, and I'm always tempted to buy vinyl because it's so cool now, but I always think that CDs last longer. I guess people haven't scratched as many records as I have in the past. So I would buy books and movies. I'd buy every Criterion Collection movie that I could find, and all sorts of books. All sorts of books, yeah.
Yes.
It probably isn't enough. Can you give me another 1,000?
Sure.
Okay. Then I'm definitely at Barnes &
Will
Noble.
you go buy some records, though?
I'll go to Lanyap and buy some
Okay,
records.
Definitely. So what would you include on your best of playlist? If you had to make a playlist right now that you could only listen to one playlist for the rest of your life, what's on it?
Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. Right now, my soundtrack for today is from Hamilton. It's One Last Time, which is George Washington's goodbye song. So probably Hamilton. It would be, I can't separate them into songs. I feel like they're all one thing. Almost everything Bruce Springsteen has ever released. The Beatles, most of their stuff, especially their later stuff. What's the song called? It's on their Satanic Majesty's request, the Rolling Stones. It starts, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. It's about Lucifer. That one would be on my list. Sympathy for the Devil. Let's see, what else? I'd probably include some of the Wu-Tang Clan. And maybe, and Kate Tempest, although she's not really a rapper. She's more like a spoken word artist. I'd include a lot of her brand new ancient stuff. Maybe some John Legend. I don't know. I'd have to listen to him before I could choose which ones. What else? India Ari's video. I'm trying to think of what I have on my phone. I have such weird stuff on my phone. Maybe some of In the Heights. Just a couple of songs from In the Heights. A couple of Nina songs. I don't know. I'd have to stop there because I'm not sure what else I would put on it. You'll notice I have like huge areas of music that are completely not there.
Okay, definitely.
But yeah, if I was on a desert island, I'd have to have those with me.
Definitely. So are you a big musical fan then? You mentioned Hamlet, or is that just that one that spoke to you?
No, I like musicals. They're expensive to produce, so producing them was always a huge struggle. But they're so much fun. And a musical with a story, like Stephen Sondheim's stuff for the most part. Into the Woods is one of my favorite musicals, and I get a lot of heat from my musical theater friends because people don't love it. But Dreams Come True, Not Free, which is one of the lines in the opening song, is one of my favorite lines from any play ever. It's really true. So I love musicals, and I would see almost any musical that's done because there's just, I know they're fun for the cast, and they're also fun for the audiences.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'd see any Sondheim that comes up, like I'm waiting for Sweeney Todd.
Definitely. So what were your favorite books and movies, singers during your childhood then?
Ooh.
Go back a little bit.
The Madeline L'Engle, Swift, what's the, gosh, I can't remember what the first one is. It's The Wind in the Door, Swiftly Tilting Planet books, but I don't think that's the first one. Those were my favorites, my absolute favorites. I identify with Meg Wallace so strongly when I was a kid that I will be forever grateful to her for writing those books. They're making them into a brand new movie right now, and I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be amazing. What else did I read? Robert Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land, which is not really a children's book, and I'm not recommending it for children, not even my children, but it was a really influential book for me. Valentine Michael Smith as the kind of the ultimate outsider also spoke to me. I was really, those kinds of characters I really connected with. X-Men comic books when I was a kid were a huge part of my life. I really felt like the X-Men, that with any luck I'd have gone to Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Children. Kind of like kids now hope to go to Hogwarts, you know. What else did I love when I was a kid? I mean, when I read The Hobbit, I loved it. The Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm blanking. I mean, the Madeline L'Engle books were probably the books that helped me to survive through childhood. You know, everybody has those times when they really need something not in their families, something that they can hold on to, and those were the books for me. That trilogy was maybe the most important thing to my childhood and young adolescence. Yeah.
Is it something that you
I would
tell
recommend
your
it to
children to
yes,
read?
yeah, and I make them read it. They're not really thrilled always about it, but they come to love it as they get a little bit older. Like Annette is just starting to love it now. But Meg is such a great character for any girl who's ever felt like people don't understand me, and you know, I want to be something, but I don't know how to do it. She's perfect, and her family is kind of perfect. So it's going to be, yeah, that's something that I always recommend to people.
I want to go read it.
Wrinkle in Time, thank
Yes.
you. That's
I knew
it.
I could see the cover too.
That's it. And Ava DuVernay, who directed Selma, is directing the new version, and so it'll be multi-ethnic, and I can't wait to see what she does with it. I'm just so excited to see it.
So, as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Whew, everything. It went, I mean, from day to day to day to day to day. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a scientist. I was really into science. I really love science. I wanted to be a writer. I think I wrote my first script when I was about 13. It was really terrible. It was a failed love story, and you know there was this tragic Dear John letter at the end, and it read just like your face. Kind of like, oh, and how old are you? Yeah, but I tried. So yeah, there was. I mean, there was so many things that seemed possible. You know, that I wanted to do kind of it all. But I did have a terrible stutter as a child. And that limited what I thought I could do. So I was like verbal stuff, like being a lawyer, which I am, or being a teacher, which I've done, or any of that just didn't seem like that was possible for me at all.
So why did you choose law?
Because I gotten over the stutter by then. And everybody was telling me to go to law school. Yeah. Since I was in high school, people are like, you should be a lawyer. I think it's because I like to argue a lot. Yeah. It probably doesn't have anything to do with being good at it. But I finally was able, I felt like I could actually do it. And I was in a fairly low-level civil service job, good insurance, you know, like all that stuff, but not much room for advancement. And law school seemed like a thing to do, so I did it.
How long did you do that for?
How long did I practice? I mean, I finished law school, and that's a 3-year course. And then I practiced law for about a year. And I was already married, and then I got pregnant. And I practiced law, and then I had the baby and stayed home. Yeah.
That was
Quite a life change.
quite a lifetime. Quite a remarkable decision to make, too.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I wonder what would be different if I had gone back to working after. But I think every family does what's best for it at that particular, like you can't think too far in the future when you're talking about an infant. You can think about right now, you know, what's going to happen today. And that's kind of what drove all those decisions for so many years was, do I need to be home now? And you do it, you know. And we didn't have a huge support system in place to like help with, so I stayed home.
And you taught your children.
And I homeschooled, which made me a teacher again, yeah. And we were fairly successful, we think. I mean, we're still working on it. We have one left in school. So, not a finished product yet.
Because my boss asked me to ask you this question, what was the most memorable breakfast you've ever had?
Ooh. Okay, when, this was not at home, when my older brother got married, he lives in New York City, and he owned restaurants in New York City. Now he's a chef, an executive chef for a catering company. But one of the restaurants that he owned, their pastry chef had gone to work for the mayor. And so he was able to take us to breakfast at the mayor's official residence when he got married. And so that was kind of like, that was a cool breakfast. I mean, I didn't really care about eating anything. It was like, wow, I'm at this really important place. We did not get to meet the mayor, but that's okay. Yeah, so that was the most, I don't remember what we had. I'm sure it was something very New York-y, you know, like, very low calorie too, though, you know, because it was right before a wedding, so everybody was having to fit into clothes they had already bought. So we were all kind of like, no, we're not hungry.
If you could have dinner with 5 famous people from history, who would they be?
Any time in history.
Anytime.
Leonardo da Vinci. Because he's on my mind right now, Barack Obama. Winston Churchill. That's 3. Let me think. If I thought I would understand the conversation, Plato. And God, they're all men, aren't they? And well, that's not very feminist. And Albert Einstein. Yeah. Leonardo da Vinci is kind of like a superhero for me, because he had so many different areas that he was not okay at, but like discoveries and things that you didn't see again for hundreds of years. So, yeah, and Einstein, because he's Einstein. What's it like to, have created the atom bomb? And what do you think about what we've done with it? And Winston Churchill, because he was the leader of a country that really looked like it was going to be defeated and wasn't in the long run. Like, he rallied his people in a way that is just so inspirational. How do you bring those people together at that kind of time? And Barack Obama, because he was able to act with such grace through what was a period where Americans didn't always act with commensurate grace back to him, toward him and his family. Yeah. Those guys. But they would all speak English, right? They would all.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because none of those are languages I speak except English.
So, just randomly, but
Okay.
if you were a season, which season
Fall.
would you be? Why is that?
I love the fall. Fall for me is like spring for most people. I feel like fall is when things begin. And I know it's not like there's not the growth and, and new life and all that, but that's always what I felt like in fall. I guess it's because when I was a kid, I loved school. And that's when school started. And so this was like, yeah, it's all starting again and it's going to be fun. And, I don't know why I thought that. School was never fun. But I really, I love the weather. I love the weather, that crispness you get in the air when it's starting to be cool. Yeah, that's love the changing of the colors in other places. But that's what, I would do fall. I would do fall without any question.
Definitely. Great. What are you most excited about right now and passionate about right now?
Right now it's learning about film. That's another book I'm reading. I can go back to that question. I can answer that. We have a book called Surviving as an Animator, I think is the name of it. And it's this guy who became an animator. And the book is really funny because he says things like that he had always drawn, but he had always drawn in like cartoonish kind of style. And he talked to an animator who was working for Disney. And the guy who was working for Disney said, you need to learn how to really draw if you want to be an animator. And he said, well, I do draw. And he said, no, that's not drawing. And he was out of college almost when he applied for a job like with Disney, and they went, but you have to know how to draw. Mm-hmm. And he realized that they meant draw real life, like naturally, and he had to go back and relearn everything about how artists work. And I thought that was really interesting. Now I've forgotten your question.
Let's see. You were talking about what you're most excited about. And you said
film. And learning about lighting and learning about like how to choose shots. And I go to YouTube for some of my education. There's a YouTube channel called Every Frame a Painting, where they look at a particular filmmaker and one thing that they do consistently in their movies. And that's really interesting. They talk about like wide shots and why this filmmaker likes wide shots and why this filmmaker always has these over-the-shoulder shots, and so that's been a real aid. So yeah, learning about why things happen the way they happen is something that I'm very interested in film. And so that's where I am. The very bottom, like super simple learning, like point the camera this way. This is the front.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I guess.
You have one poster that you can protest with. What does your poster say?
It's that Princess Leia picture. Have you seen it? Something about feminists are the revolution, and it's that picture of Princess Leia with the I don't know what it is, a blaster or a photon torpedo, whatever she has in her hands, and that would be it. It would be Princess Leia and the revolution.
What achievement are you most proud of?
Wow. I guess it's cheesy, my kids, maybe, I mean, it really is exciting to see them become adults and have their own interests and have their own ways of getting things done and see them be successful. And it's really exciting to see them not have to fight every battle again. Like they start from a place that is more evolved, maybe, than I started from, so that I feel like they don't have to go through that, well, there is a guy here applying for this job, and I'm sure he has a family, and his family needs, their family needs to eat too, and so I feel like seeing them have that step up is gratifying and makes me very happy. But I mean, I can name other stuff. I'd never practiced law long enough to argue before the Supreme Court, but I did make law review, that kind of stuff, which is important, but it doesn't really matter. In the long run, it doesn't really matter. In the long run, having 4 people that hopefully I taught the right thing to is really important, because they'll influence the people around them, and it's like those ripples, that butterfly effect thing. They'll make a difference, and then I'll have made a difference to them.
So how would you like to be remembered?
Fondly. How would I like to be remembered? Yes, I would like to be remembered as somebody who can be seen as inspiring, maybe. I suspect I'll be remembered as a fighter, like somebody who was really, this is important and it has to happen this way for these reasons. But as somebody who knew it was important and could focus on it. That's what I'd like to be remembered for.